Some say he's a technical whiz. Some say he was born in Cornwall. While some say he's on a journey. It's The Journey. And here's your host, David Hackett.
Another journey, and today we are going to a person who's committed to helping people to be the best versions of themselves and to live their happiest and healthiest lives. And as a life coach, they are drawn to helping others achieve their wellness goals. They have found along the way there is so much more to wellness than just the physical. There is mental and spiritual fitness as well. We welcome Gina Perin.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, general question starts because obviously journeys start somewhere. And the most obvious answer, I was born, but that's not what I'm talking about. What's your earliest recollection of how your journey began?
Well, my journey actually began in my early 30s when my life took a complete change, of course, that was unexpected. And that started with my brother's unexpected death. He committed suicide in 2010. And up until that point, my life was going in a completely different direction. I was about to be remarried after, a painful divorce a few years prior. I was going to be moving to New Jersey. I'm from Pennsylvania, and starting my life, over there. And that all those plans fell apart when he passed away. Within 6 months of his passing, my relationship had ended. So our engagement was called off. And within 4 years of that time period, I moved across the country to LA from Pennsylvania and started all over. So my life went in a much different direction than I had originally planned. And I learned, the biggest lesson that I had learned was that you can't plan for everything.
Yeah.
Life happens. And what seemed, and it was just an awful tragedy, a lot of good came out of the different direction that my life went in today. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. So I like how, and I know it sounds wrong in a way, but I do like how tragedy does affect, because obviously it affects some people for the worse, and in your case it happened for the better. So from one direction, you literally got flung completely like a slingshot, completely the opposite way.
I like that, David. Slingshot. Yeah, I didn't even think of it that way. And it's been a process. If we would have been talking, obviously, within the first couple years following his death, it would have been a completely different conversation. I would have thought, my life was kind of over, everything was terrible. And, but now, so it takes time and it takes steps. But looking back, I've learned a lot of lessons, and it's helped me now for moving forward. And the biggest lesson probably is that we cannot plan for everything. And, there can be good that does come out of tragedy in ways that we can't see when we're very, very close to the situation.
Yeah.
We can't see it because we're too close to it, right? So learning to take a step back when bad things happen has been the biggest lesson for me. And I'm talking about like the smallest things that happen, because we lose something a lot. Things, bad things happen to us, maybe not as tragic as a death, but, on a daily or weekly basis, sometimes we lose things or something doesn't go our way that we really wanted it to go a certain way, and how we react to it and how we manage our emotions with it. We can come out much better on the other side, or start to look at it a little bit differently. Like, what lesson did I learn from this? And how can I take that moving forward?
Mm.
And that it's a lot. There's a lot in between all that. You can't unpack that in a minute. However, there can be, healthier ways that we deal with big and small changes that happen to us in our lives.
Yeah, but I understand how death is because, personal tragedy, you say about, the bigger side of death is okay because you may not be close, but personal death, someone close to you, it is a painful thing. It takes time. It's not a quick, easy to say, okay, next day I can actually do this. And people's misconception on that. People cope differently because some cope in a way that tends to shut people off. People tend to just say, okay, they died, and then a few weeks later they show their side. And it's like so many sides to it. And then it's about addressing, like you said, that factor to know where to go. And I know for myself, and I'll use my personal tragedy. When my nan died, I was close to my grandparents. It's a part of me that I still can't get over. She's been dead now 11 years this year, but I still haven't forgotten her.
I completely understand that, David. I always say that it takes what it takes, and release all timescales. Everyone has an opinion that they love to share with you sometimes, like you should be over something because it's X amount of time. I completely dismiss that. It takes what it takes. Just as you said, everyone is very, very different, and how they handle a situation is very, very different. I don't think it's one thing that everybody should adhere to, right? Not like you should be over it in this amount of time, or you should do this to feel better about what has happened. Everyone goes throughout their own journey. I had to, for me, I didn't deal with the mental part of it, right? I didn't talk it out. I just went on my life like everything was okay, when I was really suppressing all those feelings and crying a lot at night and not actually dealing with it. So when I finally did, years later, I'm thinking, you can move across the country and it'll be, different environment, away from the area where him and I grew up, and, our family home, and having to drive near his, by his house when I'm going on any errands. If I move away from that, then things will get better. And for me, that didn't, until I went and actually addressed, how I was feeling about it. But again, that's how I dealt with it. And that took me probably a good 6 years from his death to really face what I was unresolved with. Somebody else may do that completely different.
Yeah. And then obviously you talk about in the bio, it says about mental and spiritual fitness to be wellness. And that is part of, being mentally fit, to be able to say, I can move on eventually. But obviously we know, and we just touched upon it, we can't just do that. It takes time because everyone is different.
Yeah, 100%. So the piece that I had left out, David, prior to his passing, I was very much into physical fitness. My fiance at the time and myself were, we would work out together every day. We ate very, very healthy. I was in really great physical shape. What happened from his death over that next 6 years, I really, I had gained weight. I had gained 20 pounds. I wasn't physically taking care of myself. And until one day I had enough with that, walked back into a gym and physically got back into shape because I knew how to do that. I knew how to fix that part. That part was easier for me, right, than addressing anything that was going on up here, because I didn't know how to do any of that. So I get back into, really great shape, and I'm feeling good about that, about my physical body. And I'm still crying in the middle of the night. I'm still, a complete mess up here because I hadn't addressed my whole person, right? I was missing that big piece, and without the two, because they're very married, they're together as one. And I didn't know how to do it, and I had to swallow some pride and be honest that I don't have the tools to get better with that up here, and to address, the guilt and the sadness that I had around him being gone. And when I did that, when I reached out for help and did that, then everything came together in a much healthier way, and my life had changed. And that's a lot of what I do with, with my clients today. Most people come to me when they're looking for a balance, and they're looking for weight loss and physical fitness, to get in physical shape, because that's like the primary thing that I do. But I address everything with them, everything that is going on, because again, they are very, very connected. And when we're okay up here, everything else falls into place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So, going into today, we touched upon about what you do, but how do you see life is treating you nowadays?
I can honestly say that I've never been more content in my life at this point. I know that, and I don't think I mentioned this to you, David. My brother's name is David as well. So David is certainly with me on my journey. And I see his death differently now. He was in a place, he went to a place where he wanted to be. And when I thought about him being gone those years, within those first 6 years, it was nothing but sadness and tragedy. And now I look at it as not a blessing. That would be not a blessing. But I feel that he is with me and guiding me on my journey, and that he has led me to where I am today, if that makes sense.
Like a spiritual guide.
Absolutely. He's absolutely my guide. My mind shift around that time period and that tragedy has shifted. My mindset has completely shifted. And it's almost more of like, I feel content that he's here and guiding me to do what I'm doing now, and to help others when they lose something. Because like I said, we lose something, even if, divorce can be like a death to someone. It's terrible. You're losing part of your family, or losing your kids. They grow up and leave the house. There's a lot of women that I work with that have an issue with that. And then they're not taking care of themselves as much, right? Because they feel like they lost a part of them, even though their child's launched and doing great, right? So it can be anything. Any big change in life can kind of throw us off. So coming at it from a more positive perspective is always, sometimes we just need somebody to help us see it from a different lens.
Yeah. Because obviously when you're on a freeway or highway or, motorway or wherever you are on, you got the straight and narrow, but then you can't always go straight and narrow. You got to go on the detours, diversions, because that is part of how life is. It can't just be all straightforward.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that analogy.
That's why you see the logo for the podcast, it is like a motorway freeway, because there's no deviations on it, but it's just got a bridge over it, and that's how I see it. So that's why I envisage it as a journey, because I would believe everyone has a journey. Everyone does go left. Everyone does go right, never straight. And that's how I've seen my life, never straight, because you've had bumps, you've had, incidents that just happen, and you've got to see it. You just can't.
Yeah, I love that, David. And we also only see what lane we're in, right?
Yeah.
Somebody from the outside can see all those changes coming up, or see it from a different perspective. And we sometimes need to hear somebody else's perspective, right? Because we only focus on where we're at. And so for me, it was really helpful when I got to talk to other people that helped me along the way see it from a different lens, like I said, or, see it from the outside of, they can see where I'm driving and that it's going to be okay.
And it's always seems to be, you wear the glasses that don't make you look either direction either. So you, as I say, in case you got a blinker set on one direction.
No peripheral, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Exactly.
So you got no blind side to see out of that. So business as a whole, you help people with their goals. Do you see that they benefit from the help, or is it like we said, does it take time with them as well?
Do they benefit from the what? I'm sorry, David.
Help, for example, you say to them, right, we're going to set this goal, they see their goals as healthy goals where it will go straight forward, or is there still bumps in that journey for them?
So when I'm working with a client and we are listing out their goals, one of the other things that we discuss, and that they have to do the work, right, is I'll ask, for them to come up with, what are some of the things that would deviate you from these goals? What could happen that would get you off course? And so it's trying to think ahead of time, what could happen that could change. Now, obviously can't predict everything, but what would get you off track? So preparation, for me, everything is preparation, everything. If you want to clean up your diet, you can't just say, I'm going to clean up my diet. Well, you have to prepare. How are you going to clean up your diet? What foods are you going to go buy to do that, to get there? So preparation is very key. Listing out anything that could get them off track from their goals. And then with each one of those items, right, what could throw you off that track? And then if each of those would happen, how do you manage it? What would you do to address it? And again, you cannot predict everything, but the more tools we have to prepare ahead of time of something getting us off track, the more prepared you are to handle it when it happens.
Yeah. And I'd like that, because, the preparation is the key to helping. And that's the most things with mental health. You've got to have the tools and the understanding to get yourself forward. And I know from when I've seen, counselors, they always like to help you and try and understand you, to piece together, to make a plan for the way forward. So
yeah, even if you have to have a difficult conversation, let's say with a friend or a family member, something's been bothering you and you want to address it, you have to prepare for that conversation. Because if you prepare, then well, what if they react this way? How am I going to say it? What if they react this way? Something completely different. How do I want to come across? The more you're prepared, you can have a constructive, conversation as opposed to, ending in an argument. So for me, preparation is always key, no matter what we're talking about.
So going into the future, how do you see things develop for the work you do? Do you think it's going to get better? Do you think it's going to, because obviously with work as well, you always improve to make things better, because you set yourself as a basic line when you start work, and then when you get better at your work, you make it better.
Yeah. For me, I never want to stop learning. So first and foremost, I work on myself every day. I start my day like that very early in the morning. My day started a few hours before you and I hopped on here. So for me, constantly learning every day, you hear that 1% better every day. I'm happy if I'm 0.5% better every day. I always aim for 1%, right? But every single day, I'm learning from somebody else or getting better at, in my field, in the health and wellness industry, things are constantly changing. There's new products and new whatever out there. For me, I just want to stay on top of always improving myself. That is the number one way that I can help others too, that I can share in the tools that I have learned. And what I learn along the way that helps me be better, that just helps me be better for my clients.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do.
So finally, how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you?
Oh, great question. Well, they can head to my website. I believe you'll put it up there, but it's
it'll be
Gina
in the
Perin.
description.
Great. GinaPerin.com. You can go ahead. My email is on there. And you can, of course, find me on all the social platforms. Gina Perin, Gina_Perin on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And all with my first and last name. Yeah, pretty easy to find me.
And one final question: what bit of advice would you give to anyone who wants to believe in themselves?
Who wants to believe in themselves?
Yeah. Example: anything's possible because it is possible.
How you are talking to yourself. How you are talking to yourself will determine everything. So if you are talking to yourself in a negative way, I'm not good enough, I can't change this, whatever it is, be conscious of your thoughts first and change that thought process around. Write down a few amazing things about yourself every single morning. And if you have to, I tell people, put them on a sticky note and stick it on your bathroom mirror so that you see that every morning, and change the conversation that's going on up here in your mind.
Gina?
Change it. You have amazing qualities, so write them down. It's really hard. We have a really easy time saying it about everybody else, but it's much harder to say it about ourselves. Start with how you talk to yourself.
Very true. Gina Perin, thank you for sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you so much, David.
That was The Journey, hosted by Wise Words Imaging, hosted by David Hackett. Be sure to like, subscribe and listen to another journey coming soon.